friends, it's Valerie. Welcome back to my channel. If you are new here, I would love if you would hit that subscribe button and join my YouTube family. And don't forget to leave a like or a comment down below because it really does help my channel. This week I show you 6 things that we ate during the week. One of them is just a quick fast food moment, and the 7th day of the week we just had like some leftovers. I've just been keeping it easy, haven't been feeling the best recently, so just keep me in your thoughts when it comes to that. I'm hoping to feel better soon. And let's just get to these meals. For this first recipe, I'm just taking a large skillet and I'm adding a couple tablespoons of olive oil, and then I'm gonna go ahead and place 3 large chicken breasts that I kind of pounded out to be a little bit flatter and a little bit even, and I seasoned the other side already. I put that side down and now I'm just seasoning the other side with some salt and pepper. I'm cooking these over medium-high heat, and I'm going to cook them about 5 to 6 minutes on each side. And once they're done cooking, I'm going to just go ahead and remove them from the pan. You can cover them with foil. I just put them on a plate and I set them inside of the microwave. It just like keeps the heat contained in there. So now to the bottom of my pan, the recipe originally calls for a 1/3 cup of white wine. I just used some chicken broth there, and then I added a few cloves of garlic that were minced up. Let that cook for about 30 seconds to a minute just to bring the flavor out, and then I added in 8 ounces of sliced baby bella mushrooms. You can use white mushrooms, whatever you prefer. I am seasoning that with 3/4 teaspoon of dried thyme. You could use fresh thyme as well. And then I am just going to let these cook for about 5 minutes or until they're nice and tender. Next, the recipe calls for a 1/2 cup of half and half in 1 cup of almond milk. I'm just going to be using the 1/2 cup of half and half and then 1 cup of just whole milk because that's what we use in our home. And I also added in 1½ teaspoons of cornstarch to that milk. Going to give it all a good stir and let it become nice and thickened for about 5 minutes. And then I'm going to add in a 1/2 cup of grated Parmesan cheese and stir that in and let that Parmesan begin to melt into the sauce. Once it is nice and combined and melted, I'm just going to go ahead and place my chicken right back into the pan along with any juices remaining in the plate. And you can leave it like this or you can cover it with your sauce. I prefer to have covered it with some of that sauce, so I just kind of like tossed it around in the sauce to get it nice and coated with that. Here's just a quick view of that chicken with that nice creamy sauce, and I just made up some instant garlic mashed potatoes and some air fried asparagus, and this meal was very delicious. I love a good comforting meal like this. Whenever you compare like a meat with a gravy and mashed potatoes, that is like a hit for me, so this was very delicious and did not disappoint at all. Over the Halloween weekend, we had some friends over and I made some Salsa Verde chicken in the crock pot. I will leave a link to that I've made before for you in the description box down below. But I just made some tacos. I made up some Spanish rice with that. I like a new fresh batch, and this was so delicious. I love tacos. On this night, I did a super simple, easy chicken parm. I just take those regular like Tyson chicken patties. I air fry them for about 12 minutes till they're nice and crispy. Flipping halfway through, I put a little bit of sauce on the top at the end once they're cooked, and I melt some cheese also on top of them, and then I just serve them on a bed of pasta with some extra sauce and a nice green salad. For this recipe, I'm going to be just using my Dutch oven here. Any large pot would work for you. To that, I'm going to add a 1/4 cup of butter and let that melt. My pot was getting a little too hot, so I added those onions in to kind of drop down the temperature a bit here. This is about maybe like a 1/2 of a medium onion chopped, and I'm just gonna go ahead and let those cook until they are nice and translucent. Then I'm adding in a good 4 or 5 cloves of chopped or minced up garlic there, and I'm gonna cook that for another 30 seconds to a minute to get nice and fragrant. I went ahead and grated 2 large carrots, so I'm adding that in now, and I'm going to go ahead and give that all a good stir. We're going to let these carrots begin to soften up. And then once they're nice and softened, I'm just going to go ahead and take 3 tablespoons of flour and just sprinkle that across the top of them and then give it all a good stir. We're going to want this flour taste to cook out, so go ahead and let that cook for just a couple more minutes. Next, I'm adding 2 cups of chicken broth to that. I'm using a little at first to just kind of scrape up some of those bits off the bottom of my Dutch oven, but because of the flour, it is thickening up pretty quickly. So I added a little more, just going to scrape that all up and then add the rest of the chicken broth in and continue to stir this here just for a moment. This is going to begin to thicken up. Next, just go ahead and season that to your salt and pepper preference. I used a half a teaspoon of salt to start off with and just some cracked black pepper there. You'll just want to taste along the way to see if your salt preferences. I didn't want this to be too on the salt level because I'm watching my sodium right now. But next, I am adding in the broccoli. I used a 16-ounce bag of steamable broccoli, so I steamed that up in the microwave, pulled it out, chopped it up to be finer, and I'm just going to add that right in the pot, give it all a good stir. And then to that, I'm adding in 2 cups of half and half. I just used some heavy cream and some milk to make that half and half. I'm going to just stir that all together. And once it starts to thicken up a little bit here and get heated through, I'm going to add in some cheddar cheese. I'll link a recipe. It's going to be kind of what I loosely followed. It was the closest to the recipe that I normally make. So it calls for about 8 ounces of cheddar cheese. I believe I used close to 11 ounces. I had a bigger block, which I prefer. I like this more on the cheesy side. So once that was all melted, I also decided to add in a 1/4 teaspoon of nutmeg. That really brings out that flavor in the soup. And this is it plated. I had this with just a piece of French bread with butter. Really, really loved this soup. I love soup season. It's not cold here at all, but I'm pretending it is because I absolutely love soup, and this is always a hit with me. On this night, we just had McDonald's. I saw on TikTok someone combining putting the McChicken inside of the McDouble and saying it was great. I don't agree. It was not amazing, but I like the McDouble by itself, and I had gotten chicken nuggets on the side in case I didn't like that. So I'm glad because that's one of my favorite things. And like I'm saying, just a quick, simple meal that we just wanted to try out that night. For this last meal, I'm just going to prep my ingredients. I'm using a pound of green beans, and I just cut off the ends there. I just find that to be way easier than snapping off each end. And so I'm not going to show you me doing all of that, but I'll show you a little bit here so you get an idea of what I do. And then I'm taking one of these Polska Kielbasas. You can use a smoked sausage as well. I've done that before. Both are fine and delicious. And I cut that in half, and then I cut it in half lengthwise. It's just easier for me to like work with it, and then I just slice that. You can leave these into bigger coins. I prefer it just to be cut down smaller, mainly because I like to brown it and make sure that I'm getting as many sides as I can browned as possible. That's just how I like these like kielbasas or smoked sausages. Next, I'm taking 10 golden potatoes. I've done it with 8 before. That works fine. I always do between 8 to 10. I was really wanting some potatoes this night, so I just cut those in half. I also cut off any parts I don't like. You don't have to peel these type of potatoes, but I do like scrub them, and I just cut them into quarters basically. I'm also cutting up or dicing up 1 small yellow onion. Next, I set my Instant Pot to the Sauté function, and I'm adding a couple tablespoons of avocado oil to the bottom there. Let that heat up. Then I'm going to add in my kielbasa. I just give that a stir in the oil and let this begin to brown up. I do stir every so often to make sure that I am like tossing them around and making sure more sides get nice and browned up. Once they're a nice brown color, I'll add in the diced up onion, and I'm going to do the same. Let that kind of like just get softened up and translucent. I stir it every so often. I also added in some minced garlic there. You can also use garlic powder. I've done that before. Next, you're going to add in some chicken broth, maybe about 1 cup to 1.5 cups worth. I'm going to say, I didn't measure this, but I'm going to say it was about 2 cups worth on my end. It's just I wanted to use the last of the box up there. I'm going to go ahead and scrape up all those nice brown bits on the bottom of the Instant Pot. Get all that flavor in there, and then to that liquid I'm adding in 1/4 cup or close to 1/4 cup, about 3 tablespoons worth of ranch seasoning powder. You could just use 1 packet. I have the bigger container, so I measured some out. Then to that, add your cut up potatoes. I'm just kind of like, I can't really stir it. There's not really a lot of room. So I'm just kind of pressing them down to the liquid a little bit. Trying to make a nice even layer. And then I'll top them with those green beans to another even layer. Place the lid on top. And I'm going to cook these on manual pressure for 4 minutes. I've done this for 3 minutes like every time I ever make it, but I wanted to test out 4 minutes this time just to see how soft the potatoes got. I wanted them to melt in my mouth, and they really did. So I just quick released that pressure. I made up some crescent rolls. Here's just a view of what it kind of looks like afterwards. I moved some of those green beans so you could see the liquid, because I'm pretty sure I did have 2 cups of liquid left in that broth. So you can see how much liquid is there. I just used a slotted spoon to serve it, so there was really no liquid. But there's also no point to waste any additional liquid if you don't need to. A cup to a cup and a half would be perfect. I always love when we have this. It's just so quick and easy, but it's also so delicious. It has so many ingredients that I really, really love. Thank y'all so much for watching. Don't forget to hit that subscribe button and that little bell so you don't miss out on any future videos. And I hope you all are having an amazing day.